I watched Marcus sign the final divorce decree with a smirk that could have cut glass. He didn't just think he had won. He thought he had erased me. He leaned over the mahogany table, his expensive cologne filling the small room, and whispered, "I hope you like the taste of nothing, Elena." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just tucked a stray hair behind my ear and smiled back. Because Marcus didn't realize he hadn't just won the house, the cars, and the company. He had just signed his own death warrant, and I was the one who handed him the pen, 10 years. That's how long I played the role of the perfect, invisible wife. I was the shadow behind the real estate king of the tri-state area. While Marcus was out playing golf and taking credit for every multi-million-dollar closing, I was the one in the home office until 3 in the morning. I balanced the ledgers. I navigated the zoning laws. I managed the contractors. I even wrote his speeches. To the world, Marcus was a self-made titan. To me, he was a man who couldn't find his own socks without asking for help. Then came the change. It started with late nights that weren't about business. Then came the hidden credit card statements. Then came the coldness. He stopped looking at me like a partner and started looking at me like a piece of old furniture that didn't fit the new decor. He wanted a rebrand, and that rebrand included a 24-year-old fitness influencer named Tiffany and a circle of friends who suddenly couldn't remember my name. My mother-in-law, Sylvia, was the worst. She sat me down for tea and told me, "Elena, dear, Marcus has outgrown this life. You should be grateful for the years he gave you. Don't make this ugly." The ugly part was Marcus's plan to leave me with $1,000 a month in alimony and zero equity in the empire I built. He wanted the house. He wanted the Tesla. He wanted the primary custody of our daughter, Maya, just so he wouldn't have to pay child support. He wanted to strip me down to the bone. But Marcus made one fatal mistake. He forgot that I was the one who kept the books. 3 years ago, I found the first crack. Marcus had been gambling. Not just at tables, but with the business. He had taken out a second mortgage on our primary residence to cover a bad development deal in the city. Then a third. He was using the company's operating capital to fund a lifestyle we couldn't afford. The king was sitting on a throne of toothpicks. The business wasn't just struggling. It was a black hole of debt, shielded only by a series of shell companies and creative accounting that only I understood. I could have warned him. I could have saved him. Instead, I decided to let him drown. For 36 months, I played the part of the doting, oblivious wife. I watched him buy Tiffany a Birkin bag with money that should have gone to the bank. I watched him brag to his friends about his record-breaking year, while the interest rates on his private loans climbed into the double digits. Every time he insulted me, every time he called me unambitious or lucky to be there, I just added another document to my private cloud drive. I moved quietly. I opened a separate account in a different state. I took the small inheritance my grandmother left me, money Marcus didn't even know existed, and I grew it. I consulted a forensic accountant in secret. I set up an ironclad, irrevocable trust for Maya, funded by the few assets that were actually clean. I worked like a ghost in the middle of the night, shifting my life into a lifeboat while the Titanic sped toward the iceberg. The divorce proceedings were a masterclass in acting. My lawyer, a woman Marcus called a bleeding heart amateur, played the role of the overwhelmed underdog perfectly. We sat in mediation for weeks. Marcus's high-priced legal team laughed in the hallways. They called my demands adorable. Marcus sat across from me, scrolling through his phone, barely acknowledging my existence. "I want the house," Marcus declared during the final session. "And the firm. And the vacation property in Aspen. Elena can have the condo in the suburbs and her little SUV. It's more than she knows how to manage anyway." My lawyer looked at me, her face a mask of feigned defeat. "Elena, he's offering very little cash. Are you sure?" I looked at Marcus. I let my lip tremble just a little. I let a single tear roll down my cheek. "I just want it to be over, Marcus." If that's what it takes for you to be happy, take it. Take it all. Sylvia, sitting in the corner, let out a huff of triumph. Finally, some grace, she muttered. Marcus signed. He took the $5 million mansion. He took the real estate firm valued at $20 million. He took the luxury cars. He took the prestige. I took the small settlement, the liquid cash from my hidden savings, the child's trust, and a modest apartment. To the public, I was the discarded wife who got taken to the cleaners. To Marcus's friends, I was a cautionary tale. The day after the papers were finalized, I moved out. I didn't take a single piece of furniture. I left the keys on the marble countertop. Marcus was there, leaning against the wall, a glass of expensive scotch in his hand. "You're a loser, Elena," he said, his voice dripping with venom. "You spent 10 years building this, and now you're walking away with a suitcase and a used car. I'm the one who wins. I always win." I stopped at the door. I didn't look back. "I hope you enjoy the house, Marcus. It's everything you deserve." I waited precisely 48 hours. On Monday morning, the calls started. Marcus's phone didn't stop ringing. It wasn't the press. It wasn't Tiffany. It was the banks. See, I hadn't just given him the house. I had given him the house along with the 3 secret cross-collateralized mortgages he had signed while intoxicated or distracted over the last 3 years. I had given him the business, but I had also resigned as the CFO, leaving him to face the looming audit I had triggered with a well-placed anonymous tip to the IRS. The $20 million firm was actually $18 million in debt. The payroll taxes hadn't been paid in 6 months. The Aspen property was built on a legal technicality that I had intentionally left unfiled, making it essentially unsellable. I was sitting in a quiet cafe miles away when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Marcus. "What did you do?" I didn't reply. I watched the news. A local headline popped up. "Real estate mogul Marcus Thorne under investigation for tax evasion." An hour later, another text. "The bank is calling in the loans. Elena, answer me. How do I fix this?" I took a sip of my tea. I thought about the nights I spent crying while he was out with other women. I thought about the way his mother looked at me like I was dirt under her shoe. I thought about the way he tried to take my daughter away from me just to save a few bucks. I finally typed back. "I didn't do anything. Marcus. You did. You wanted the empire. Now you have to rule it." By Wednesday, Marcus's world was in flames. The mansion he fought so hard for was served with a foreclosure notice. Because the business was tied to the house, and the house was tied to his personal credit, the dominoes fell with breathtaking speed. His friends vanished. Tiffany was gone by Thursday, reportedly moving out with the Birkin bags I knew the bank would eventually claw back. I received a call from the mediator who had handled our divorce. Her voice was hushed, almost shocked. "Elena? I've just seen the updated financial disclosures from the banks regarding Marcus's holdings. Did you know?" "Know what?" I asked innocently. "The debt? It's astronomical. He's underwater by millions. If you had stayed, you would have been liable for half of that. By taking that small cash settlement and walking away from the assets. You didn't just lose. You escaped." I smiled. It's funny how things work out, isn't it? The final blow came a week later. Marcus tried to sue me, claiming I had misled him about the state of the finances. We met in a small, cramped office, not the fancy boardroom from before. Marcus looked 20 years older. His suit was wrinkled. His bravado was gone. "You knew," he hissed, his eyes bloodshot. "You knew the company was a ghost. You knew the house was leveraged to the hilt. You set me up." My lawyer leaned forward, placing a stack of documents on the table. "Mr. Thorne, you signed these loan documents yourself. You managed the accounts you chose to manage. My client was merely the bookkeeper. You were the CEO. Are you suggesting you were too incompetent to understand your own business?" Marcus sputtered. "She manipulated the timing. She waited until the divorce was final to let the notices hit." "Actually," I said, speaking for the first time. My voice was calm. It was the voice of a woman who had finally found her breath. I just stopped fixing your mistakes. I spent 10 years being your safety net. I just decided to step aside and see if you could fly on your own. Turns out you're a rock. He lunged across the table, but his lawyer held him back. Elena, please, Marcus pleaded, his voice breaking. I'm going to lose everything. They're taking the cars. My mother has to move out of her condo. You have to help me. You have the cash from the settlement. You have the trust. I stood up and smoothed my dress. That money is for Maya's future, the future you tried to take from her. And as for your mother, maybe she can find some grace in a smaller apartment. I walked out of that office and didn't look back. As I stepped into the sunlight, my phone chimed. It was a notification from my bank. My separate investments, the ones I had carefully tended while Marcus was busy being a king, had just cleared another milestone. I was more than fine. I was wealthy. I was free. And I was clean. The viral clips started hitting the local news that night. Marcus being led out of his office in handcuffs for questioning regarding the creative accounting practices. The king had been dethroned. The public was shocked. They wondered how a man so powerful could fall so fast. They wondered how his quiet wife was doing. They didn't realize that the quiet wife was the one who had built the throne in the first place. And she was the one who knew exactly which bolt to pull to make it all come crashing down. I took Maya to the park that afternoon. She ran through the grass, laughing, unaware of the war that had just ended. I sat on a bench, feeling the sun on my face. I had played the long game. I had been underestimated, insulted, and betrayed. I had stayed silent when I wanted to scream. I had been patient when I wanted to strike. And in the end, I didn't have to destroy him. I just had to give him exactly what he asked for. Marcus Thorne had wanted everything. And that's exactly what he got. Every cent of debt, every ounce of scandal, every bit of ruin. I looked at the final decree in my bag one last time before tearing it into pieces and dropping it into the trash can. The story of the real estate king was over. My story was just beginning. I checked my watch. It was time for lunch. I had a life to live, a daughter to raise, and a fortune to enjoy. I walked away from the wreckage of his life without a single regret. Because the best revenge isn't just winning. It's watching them realize they never even knew who they were fighting. I wasn't the victim of his story. He was the footnote in mine. Would you like me to create a follow-up scene where the protagonist encounters her former mother-in-law months later?